Great. And I think reminding students to really be mindful of the time periods of the questions is a good reminder, because when you get off topic, it's not your evidence, it's not going to count because it's not going to be relevant. So I think that's great. All right, you have got a large topic piece here, a large content piece, Todd.
All right, here we go. Nationalism and unification. Explain the factors that resulted in Italian unification, German unification. And so we'll go forward. That's what we'll try to hit. We'll start with Italy. And we already have Count Camillo Cavour, Sardinia's brilliant statesman, Count Camillo Benso di Cavour. He had these limited and realistic national goals. So he wants a unified Italy, but what does that look like? He's not thinking the whole peninsula. He thinks the northern states and maybe the central, and we're going to just make a new kingdom of Sardinia. It'll be expanded. It'll be awesome, right? He's not thinking the south. He's certainly not thinking the papal states. In the 1850s, he works to consolidate Sardinia as a liberal constitutional state. So he's thinking constitutional monarchy, capable of leading northern Italy, and he successfully builds support for Sardinia through a program of highways, railroads, civil liberties, opposition to clerical privilege, everything that's going to appeal to northern Italy. He realized that Sardinia cannot drive Austria out of northern Italy. Austria occupies northern Italy. And so how do we get them out? And he can't do it by themselves, but he needs an ally. So he enters the secret agreement with Napoleon III. And he basically has to get Austria to throw the first punch, if you will. And so he goads them into attacking. And Napoleon III, through the secret agreement, comes to the defense. Austria is defeated. Napoleon III backs out at the last minute, but it's going to work out because Cavour is going to return to power. He's going to gain the support by getting of Napoleon and France, which he needs to keep Austria in check. And he's going to give up Savoy and Nice to France. And he's going to achieve that original goal. I have the northern Italian state, and the people of central Italy will vote to join a greatly enlarged kingdom of Sardinia under Victor Emmanuel II, Vittorio Emanuele II. So he gets it done. He feels like he's finished, but oh no, there's more. Enter Giuseppe Garibaldi in his red shirts. He is the son of a poor sailor. He believes in nationalism and republicanism, and he personifies this idea of the romantic revolutionary. 1860, Garibaldi's guerrilla band of 1,000 red shirts land in Sicily, capture the imagination of the peasantry who support them. They revolt against their landlords. They outwit the royal army. They win battles. They gain volunteers. They take Palermo. And now they're going to cross over from the island of Sicily to the mainland. So I always tell students, if you can imagine the map of Italy, which is the boot, Sicily is like the soccer ball, and they're going to, the boot is kicking, and they're going to cross over. When Garibaldi and his men cross to the mainland, they prepare to attack Rome. But this is where Cavour is like, whoa, you don't want to do that, because it's just not Rome. It's Catholicism. It's the Holy Roman Empire. It's global. And so he sends forces to occupy most of the papal states, but not Rome, and to intercept Garibaldi, where they have a discussion, and they are going to organize a plebiscite, which is a vote to say, okay, the territories we've conquered, will you just join us as you are into the kingdom of Sardinia? The vote is thumbs up, yes, and they go forward. And so they've kind of realized this goal of uniting Italy. Garibaldi and the king, Victor Emmanuel, ride through Naples to cheering crowds, symbolically sealing the union of North and South, of monarch and nation state, but without the papal states. So they have a new parliamentary monarchy under Victor Emmanuel II. It's neither radical nor democratic. It's politically unified, but it doesn't do anything really for the people. And we think Garibaldi certainly knew that. The North is very industrial in Italy. The South is very agrarian, similar to what the US is like at that same period of time. Okay, next one. Next we have we've unified Italy, just like that. Didn't take too long. Here we go. German unification. And we have this, I like this younger portrait of Bismarck. So many of the portraits we have, you know, he's older, he's a little frumpier looking, and he's got one of those weird hats with the point on top. So now it looks more like a statesman, which I think he really was. Wilhelm I inherits the Prussian throne in 1861, and he wants to reestablish Prussia's power. And he's going to do that by really building up the army, make the army bigger, modernize the weapons. It's industrial revolution. We can do this. Germany industrializes, and we have the middle-class liberal party also growing at the same time. and they don't like the conservative influence of the army and that Junker class, which leads the army. Both of them are opposing reforms of the king, and it's a deadlock because Wilhelm really wants to build up this army and get going, but the party controlling the purse strings and parliament are saying, no, we're not so much. We're not going to do that. So Wilhelm says, you know what? I know a guy, and I'm going to bring in Otto von Bismarck. And Bismarck is made prime minister in 1862, and he comes into the position with a lot of diplomatic experience. That's why I like this image, because he is a statesman. He's really, really smart. And he declares that Wilhelm's government will rule without your consent. And we'll raise taxes, and I won't ask. I'll just go and I'll get the bureaucracy to collect the taxes. And so that's what he does. And he uses the expression Eisen und Blut, iron and blood, to describe how the great moments in history are decided through conflict and warfare, not through talking about it. So his phrase was meant to assert that wars made major events of history, and he was going to deliver. And he says, you can start to increase defense spending, and you can do it with us or against us. And Parliament says no, but Bismarck says, fine, I control the bureaucracy as the prime minister, and I will order them to do this. So the budget hadn't been approved, but he reorganizes the army, wages 3 separate wars to unify Germany, just like that. Up into the north, he gets the north going. Then he goes and picks a fight with Austria, the Austro-Prussian War. So this is the Danish kingdom successful against Denmark. That was in Schleswig-Holstein. I just like saying that for some reason. And then we have the war against Austria, the Prussian-Austrian Wars, 1866, and it really demonstrates how far behind Austria is in their modernization. And then he's going to pick a fight with France. And one thing he's worried about is the southern part of Germany is very Catholic, and he really wants to unite that, but he really needs to do it in a deceptive way to make France look like the aggressor. So those southern Catholic German states would go, hey, we don't like how you're behaving, France. We don't like this aggression. Bismarck swoops in, and I'm speaking figuratively, obviously. And by 1870, he manipulates this war against France, defeats the French in the Franco-Prussian War, takes the French provinces of Alsace and Lorraine. In 1871, it is the German Empire. It's declared. Wilhelm I is the Kaiser. But how about this image? So it foreshadows what's coming later, because of all the places that France holds dear to its nationalism and its heart and its identity, Versailles is one of those places. And so they're going to make France sign the peace agreement in Versailles, and they're going to be on top of the dais, as you see. I mean, it really is like rubbing salt in the open wound, but the French, they will not forget, for sure.
No, and maybe we can get to that tomorrow when
I think we will.
do both world wars in a few minutes. So moving on in the 19th century, we're going to talk just about a small piece of new imperialism, the new imperialism in Africa, and the motivations that led the Europeans to do this. And we're not going to get to all of the content again, but there are AP daily videos if you want to do a little bit more. So to contextualize, you can see this map, and this map has, I think all of you have probably in class seen how the map of European possessions changes very quickly during this time period to very little European colonization, where almost the entire continent is colonized. So economic motivations absolutely play a role. And we're going to kind of bring this up again tomorrow in your homework, that we're going to try to expand political empires, especially for the British Empire, that was losing its early economic lead, facing competition in foreign markets. Each leading European power saw colonies as crucial to their national security, as well as their military power. And then, for example, the safeguarding of the Suez Canal played an important role in the British occupation of Egypt. Many people were also convinced, because of ideologies that we have going on during this time, that colonies are essential for great nations. We see this attitude reflecting the increasing aggressiveness of European nationalism and these ideas of social Darwinism. And there's a whole AP daily video on social Darwinism and its impact and how it really fosters this brutal competition among races that we see, particularly in Africa. Another factor that allows imperialism to happen has to do with technology. We've got technology and military superiority. We've got the Maxim gun that helps subjugate native peoples. We have quinine, and that's what the image is showing. because quinine is discovered to help with malaria. And of course, the invention of the steamship and the telegraph, these transportation and communication technologies that's going to allow people to get into the interior of Africa in a way that they had not been able to do before. Conservative political leaders manipulated colonial issues in order to divert attention from the class struggle and create a sense of unity. And imperialists also developed arguments to satisfy their consciousness and answer critics. So this big favorite idea was this idea of a civilizing mission, that somehow white Europeans were obligated to civilize more primitive non-white people. So these are arguments that are developed as Europeans are heading into Africa. We're going to continue to see that expansion. And by the time we get to World War I, this map is pretty much totally full. And this is after the Berlin Conference. Imperialism begins with the International Congo Association in 1878 by Leopold II of Belgium. He forms a financial syndicate and establishes his personal control. He sends the great explorer Henry Stanley into the Congo to establish trading stations and to sign very unfair treaties with African chiefs, chiefs who are signing away whole villages and they have no idea what they're signing. After Leopold's intrusion into the Congo, tensions mount among European nations, and industrialized countries want a share of all these resources, of natural resources that are in Africa. And to keep peace during this time, Bismarck, who, you know, Todd, I'd never seen that picture of Bismarck before. I think I've only seen those like older iconic images of him with the hat you mentioned. And he was certainly a statesman. And so he arranges the Berlin Conference during this time period, this scramble where everyone's trying to get a peace when there's a finite amount. And the conference recognizes Leopold's rule over the Congo Free State, and they agreed to work to stop the slave trade in Africa, which is really a facade. And European powers then push into the interior of Africa so that no single power would be able to claim the continent. And as we continue on, the British definitely are going to possess the largest empire in the world at this time. That includes Egypt and South Africa, and the completion of the Suez Canal in 1869 made Egypt vitally important to the British because it shortened that route to India. They didn't have to go all the way around. And to protect Egypt, Britain also advanced to the Sudan. France has territory here as well. It's going to solidify its claims on West Africa. It's going to acquire portions of North Africa, which has vital resources like iron ore and petroleum. And by 1882, France will be in full control of Algeria and take over Tunisia to prevent both from falling into Italian hands. So we've got competition here, right? Imperialism is definitely this form of competition. Bismarck had little interest in colonies, but he pursued an imperial policy to improve Germany's diplomatic position, right? See, always the statesman. Germany had acquired territory in Central Africa, where it established a mining industry. And it also blocked, and you can see our image here, it blocked Great Britain's hopes of creating a railroad from Cape Town to Cairo. And you can see Cecil Rhodes there with his sort of striding that territory that he stopped from being all British there in that image. So again, a lot of quick stuff on imperialism, not touching on outside of Africa, and there's Asian pieces that you can absolutely go and watch those